To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning and welcome. What does the next phase of the coronavirus crisis look like as reopening safely and quickly becomes the focus in our communities, our state, and beyond? This morning, we're talking about challenges with COVID-19 testing and unemployment in underserved communities throughout Palm Beach County. And we welcome Patrick Franklin, President and CEO of the Urban League of Palm Beach County. Mr. Franklin, thank you for your time. Outline the scope of your concerns about testing for underserved communities and what's being done to address that issue both regionally and, in your mind, statewide.
Michael, I think testing in the low-income minority communities have been vastly understated. They're not being done, and I'm trying to address this issue from a local perspective, and I've been very happy so far with the response I've received from our local municipalities and from foundations that are really stepping up, and other nonprofit agencies to make this happen. Because we see from a national perspective that many of our African American residents are being affected adversely at a much higher rate, and their death rates are unacceptable. I mean, almost 60 to 70% of the death rates are African Americans, and we realize there are issues behind this, and we're trying to do our part to make sure that we're testing the people who live in these communities.
What are the issues behind that in terms of health or societal issues? Then let's go to some of the things you're doing specifically.
Well, African Americans were already behind the 8 ball before the COVID even started. And from health disparities to income and education and job disparities. So when you add COVID on top of this, we have seen a large amount of hurt and pain going on. Most of our residents in these low-income areas are working in jobs that are first-line people who are working with nurse assistants and working in places like healthcare and social services and cooks and orderlies. They're touching individuals of first contact, and they're bringing that back home. They live in multi-generational families. They live in close-knit communities. There is no social distancing going on and in their living quarters.
Mr. Franklin, talk about some of the specific efforts you have made in this community. You all have been out and about doing more testing. Talk about where you are, any promises that you may have or are eliciting from lawmakers to ramp up testing even further. Where are you? What are you doing? What more do you specifically want to see?
All right. First of all, I really would like to thank the Quantum Foundation and the FoundCare nonprofit agency for the work that they have done in testing. They've tested in the city of West Palm Beach, in Dunbar Village. They've tested in Riviera Beach. We just did a testing this past week in the city of Delray Beach. And really hats off to the city of Delray Beach administration and their staff, police and fire department, and their community service group for answering our call immediately, setting up a process. We tested 146 residents this past Tuesday. We're going to process this weekend 300 plus residents in the city of West Palm Beach at Gaines Park. And it's taken these initiatives from different groups to pull together, to partner, to make sure that we are addressing the needs. Michael, the biggest thing that touched me this past week at our testing is when we had individuals ride up on their bicycles, walk up, come on their powered little carts and said, "May I have a test?" And we said, "By all means." And that's where we actually saw the difference. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. And it's really, to me, people want to get tested. And this COVID virus does not have any racial barriers. It doesn't discriminate against age, race, sex. It doesn't discriminate against how wealthy you are or not. It cuts across all barriers.
Mr. Franklin, talk about efforts to turbocharge what you're doing. What kind of commitments are you getting? What kind of requests are you making to regional and state lawmakers? Because as we all know, and it's been said again and again and again, till we have a better sense of where we are with testing, it's hard to go to the next part of this debate about how safely, quickly we reopen and where. Talk about that.
Right. We have sent a letter. I'm part of the Urban League of Florida Consortium. We have 7 urban leagues across the state. We sent a letter last week to Governor DeSantis requesting that we get more testing in the African American community. We opened a site at the Urban League of Broward County for walk-up testing in the African American neighborhood that was open last Friday. I'm hoping that we will be the next agency to open a walk-up testing site in the city of West Palm Beach. If we can do that, this is an ongoing process. It is not going to be over next week. It's not going to be over next month. We have to continue testing because we have not tested enough. We have not tested not even close to the number of people that need to be tested in the African American community. It just haven't happened for many reasons, Mike. I mean, a lack of transportation. Many of our residents don't have a car to drive to 15 Park. They don't have a car to drive to the South County Civic Center. We have to go to where they are. And in doing these mobile testing sites, this is where the actual action is going to happen, and we need to do more of this. I hope that we can find funds to help us purchase kits, to help agencies like Found Care to do their job, and to help us to put these logistics sites together and say, we're going to be across this entire county 2 to 3 times a week to do individual testing. 200 here, 300 here, that's making a difference.
What do we need to do in terms of funding at the regional, state, and national level to make sure that everybody knows that without fear, without worry about whether they have a healthcare plan or not, that there's easily accessible testing? Because again, it is so key here, and you're really doing what you can, but you are the first to acknowledge you're scratching the surface of a much deeper.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Additional funding is needed. We need not only to put together a few hundred test kits, we need a few thousand test kits, and need the actually PPEs to assist Found Care and other agencies that are willing to go out. And look, everybody's not willing to go out and do this work, but we have found partners, good partners that will go out, do the work. They're passionate about it. They are motivated. And I think if we can get more large organizations, maybe hospital systems, to donate test kits, to donate the PPEs to us, to understand that we're out there, we're on the front lines, support us in those ways. And I'm quite sure, Michael, we can come back 2, 3, 4 times a week through neighborhoods in Lake Worth and Riviera Beach, and neighborhoods in Green Acres, Lantana, Boynton Beach. All these communities need assistance.
In our remaining time, Mr. Franklin, an issue that affects, of course, the African-American community, the Hispanic community, the community at large, this whole debate about the need to do much deeper, wider testing and follow-up testing, vis-a-vis the understandable need of people say, I need to go back to work. We're talking about reopening Florida in a slow, cautious way. Healthcare experts say we've got to be careful not to get ahead of where we know we are in terms of what testing says about where we are with coronavirus. Speak to that larger issue that affects the communities that you're primarily serving, but that much bigger debate that we're having right now in the state. Your concerns and your thoughts.
Look, economically, everybody wants to go back to work. Everybody needs to provide funds for their families. But I know, Michael, from an African-American perspective, our people are working in jobs that are the first to be laid off, the first to be furloughed. They are working in low entry jobs that they're being exposed at a different rate. 40% of African Americans working in our work environment right now don't have the ability to work from home. That's not in part of their job requirements. They have to be on the job. So we need to be able to protect them going forward, be able to give them the right PPEs, because their jobs will be opening up soon, and they will be going there in droves to make sure that they can get a paycheck. How do we protect them? That's going to be the big issue. How do we protect those individuals who are going back to work so quickly?
Mr. Franklin, in our remaining moment, the Florida unemployment system, it's been called the worst in the nation, the benefits are the lowest in the nation. It's been a major nightmare for anybody trying to claim unemployment benefits. Talk about that issue, what you're doing as the Urban League to push on that. We know Democratic lawmakers and others are pushing, but still, all I hear every day is continued frustration with that system.
Continued frustration.
Where are we going?
The state of Florida has a long way to go. Yes, we are last in getting out paychecks, but I think a lot of people are having problems just getting signed on, just logging on to put their applications in. Michael, we're working with the city of West Palm Beach right now for a small business loan program to get $5,000 to $10,000 out to local businesses. that's happening. But from an individual point of view, I think that we have not seen the big storm yet. I personally think that we still have a lot of people that are waiting to get their unemployment checks. They're waiting to get that $1,200 check from the federal government. And we need to have a process in line right now that's going to come a second wave that's going to give them additional funds, because this is going on for 6 weeks already. I anticipate it's going to be on for several more weeks, and we need to have a system in place. And we're working with CareerSource, we're working with other agencies to how can we help you? How can we help you to educate people, to get people the right information correct to apply? A lot of people have never applied for unemployment before. They're going into new areas and they need help. And if anybody could need help, call the Urban League.
Mr. Franklin, as always, we thank you for your perspective and being with us today.
Michael, one last thing, if I could. The census is out there, Census 2020, and I would encourage all of our residents. It is so important that you engage in the census and complete it, and it will come back to us in funds that we absolutely, positively need more than ever.
Thank you. It's a wonderful reminder to all of us about the absolute necessity for that, the federal dollars that will help our schools, our roads, help with projects that help all of us in every community. Again, thank you for your perspective, sir, and have a great day.
Thank you, Michael.
And coming up, our roundtable takes up Florida's broken unemployment system, the reality and the politics of that. Stay with us.